Perfect.
All right. Good morning, everybody. We are just getting started here with the webinar. We're going to wait a few minutes to get all of our participants on. So if you guys just don't mind hanging on a few moments, we'll get going. All right. Thank you. I see a couple more people jumping on every second. So hope everybody so far is enjoying their Thursday. Having a little bit of Christmas spirit. You guys maybe see my Christmas tree in the background. So I'm working remotely from home and have a little holiday spirit around me, which is nice. Few reminders, guys, as everyone's jumping on. We have all of you obviously muted, and in a webinar, we only have our presenter on, but please feel free throughout the presentation. You will see the Q&A and the chat. Feel free to jump in at any time, ask any questions. I will be assisting Wendy, our presenter, with her answering those questions, and we will definitely get to any and all questions that you guys have. So if you guys want to get up, stretch, do a quick bathroom break, we're gonna get going in about 2 minutes. Thanks, guys. Okay, guys. I just would like to be respectful of everyone's time today, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get us rolling. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us for the second in our flash webinar series that the Temecula Valley Chamber of Commerce is putting on during this challenging time for all of us. So today we are very lucky and honored to have Wendy Main from our local SBDC. She is a CPA, expert in all things financial, and we're lucky to have her giving us some really good, helpful, great information today. So I am going to turn it over to Wendy, and she will take it away, guys. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Like Michelle said, my name is Wendy Main, and I'm a CPA and a full-time consultant with the Inland Empire Small Business Development Center. A little bit about us, just to get started. Let me actually share my screen here so I can get you into the presentation. There, can everyone see that?
Yes, Wendy, you're great. We can see it. Thank you.
You gotta love Zoom. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about the tools and tips to help us be successful in 2021. And first, I want to talk a little bit more about what we do at the SBDC offices here. Basically, what we do is we offer one-to-one consulting and training, like webinars you see today. So our consulting it's all confidential, it's one-on-one, and we have help in areas such as social media, websites, government certifications, financial analysis, building business plans, startups and existing. I'm trying to think, we have experts in the travel industry, the food industry, pretty much anything you can think of. I think we have about 14 consultants on staff right now. And the best part about all of our services is that they're actually free of charge to everyone. So you can call and make an appointment and sit down one-to-one to talk about any of your business concerns. And we can definitely get you to a consultant that specializes in that area to help you out. The second thing that we do is training. So on top of coming out here to Temecula Chamber of Commerce today, we also offer probably between 30 to 40 webinars a month through our system. So you can always go to our website and look up all of those, and they range anywhere from talking about COVID relief, marketing, customer service, financial analysis, QuickBooks, all those different types of areas. So that's a great free resource also to take advantage of, because there's no limit to the number of webinars that you can take with us. And again, there's no cost for it. And the last thing that we do is our resources. So we've been around, I think it's 19 years that we've been around. Now I'm blanking on it. But in that time, we've made close relationships with cities, governments, and other experts in just in all different kinds of industries. So really use us kind of as your first stop to ask the question. Always come to us, and if we can actually help you in-house, we can usually get you to a resource that can help you with what you need. So that's a little bit about what we offer at SBDC. And just quickly, I can't go forward without thanking all of our sponsors. I know on the first slide you saw, we're actually sponsored on the federal level by the SBA, and then through the California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, and then both City of San Bernardino County and Riverside. And then also all of our other city and chamber sponsors. So when we're actually out in the real world again and meeting everyone live, all of the cities that you see here, we actually have outreach offices there, including at the Temecula Chamber of Commerce also. And lastly, we just want to thank our bank sponsors. They help us out a lot, and we get to spend a lot of time working with them and our clients in helping to put together loans. So they're another great resource that we also have for you. So I will skip my little Q&A because Michelle already went over it. But if you guys do think of any questions, please go ahead and put them into the chat box. And I left some time at the end that we can actually go over and talk about that. So just a little bit more about me. Like I said before, I'm a certified public accountant. And prior to coming to the Small Business Development Center a year ago, I had spent my entire 20-year career in public accounting, working with small businesses in the Inland Empire. So I spent a lot of time doing taxes, tax planning, accounting, bookkeeping in the day, business consulting with them, and all those good things. One thing that I actually spent a lot of time doing is QuickBooks training and consulting. So that's kind of my specialty here at SBDC. I'm a certified online QuickBooks Proadvisor. So any questions you guys might have about that, feel free to go ahead and ask me about that. So with that, let's start talking about moving forward to 2021. So I wanted to kind of talk about navigating, what they call the new normal. And when I started thinking about this, I started thinking about what are the terms and words that we can use kind of to describe 2020. And I kind of came up with, it was a disaster, the shutdowns, everything's on Zoom like we are now. Basically, we were just trying to survive in 2020. And so I started to think, what are we going to do different? And what comes to mind when I start thinking about moving forward to 2021? And what I've been seeing with a lot of my clients so far is that we're talking about recovery, changing, building everything back, and actually growing and becoming successful. So when I started working on this, I started thinking, well, how are we going to navigate from this disaster survival mindset and get into a recovery and growth mode? And how are we going to do that? And how am I going to help my clients do that so that I can give you guys the inside track here today? So what I decided to do is put together kind of what kind of help is out there for you right now if you still need financial assistance, and then talk about what we still need to watch out for and what kind of pitfalls might be coming up in 2021 that we should be aware of already so that we can be ready for those challenges. And then how do we get there? How do we figure it out? So with that, I did want to go over some of the programs that are actually available in California right now. And there's not a lot, there's still always the EIDL loans from the federal government. If you haven't already gotten an EIDL loan, that program is still open. The PPP is closed. Depending on Congress, we might actually get a new PPP bill. They've been discussing it. And so we're going to have to wait and see on that. But these are two programs I have here that are actually available or coming up soon. And so they're set in stone. So I decided I should only talk to you guys about what's actually certain right now. So the first one is the California Rebuilding Fund. And this is a loan up to $100,000. It's based on 3 months of your average gross revenue, and they have certain calculations that you do for this to actually figure out, it's kind of a rolling 3 month from 2019, and that basically will determine the amount of loan that you can get. This one very specifically is a non-forgivable loan. So they write that right in all their stuff so that it's not one of those forgivable ones. You actually have to pay this one back. So their interest rate is 4.25%, and they will determine the length of time between 3 or 5 years, and that'll be determined when they're doing your underwriting and all that kind of stuff. So the basic requirements for this one is that you do have to have under 50 employees, and you do have to be under 2.5 million in revenue. There's a lot of other requirements for it. It's kind of a lengthy application process, but if it's something that you might be interested in, I went ahead and put the website down here so that you could go and find out more about it. And the website for this one is caloanfund.org. And if you guys don't worry, you guys don't need to write a bunch of notes. I know Michelle is actually going to send out a set of these slides afterwards. So if you need to get website addresses or anything like that, it'll actually be available after we finish today. So that's the California Rebuilding Fund loan. And then the next thing that the governor has just announced is the Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant. So we got a bunch of calls after this. When's it available? Well, I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be available probably until sometime in the first quarter of 2021. So basically, they've created the fund of $500 million, and they put it aside for this program. And then now they're actually putting the program together and getting it ready. So what this program is actually going to do is it's going to be a small business grant, which means free money up to $25,000. They're still working on it, so we really don't know all the requirements or what we have to do for it. So we're waiting for all of that. If this is something that you're interested in, there is the website on the bottom of this page here where you can go to sign up for their newsletter. That will also send out any notifications as soon as either interest lists are building for the grant or that it actually opens for applications. So if you want to get in on this grant and you still need that kind of money, this is definitely somewhere you want to go and sign up for the website from them, and then you'll be in the know and ready to go when that becomes available. So with that, that's pretty much all that's out and available right now. So as I started thinking more about this, I really thought, so there's not a lot of help out there right now. So we're going to have to start relying on ourselves basically to get up and get going and get back to a successful track.
Wendy,
So yes.
I'm so sorry, interrupt
Oh,
you. We had a question come in the
oh,
chat
sure.
box. Someone asked, do you know if this loan will include nonprofit organizations?
The California Rebuilding Fund?
I believe so. That question came after you. If the person who asked the question, Deb, I think it's you, Deb, out there, if you want to clarify, do you mean the COVID relief, the California one, or the California Rebuilding? I'm going to guess the second one you were talking about, Wendy. Is that available for nonprofits?
The relief grant?
Yes.
You know, I'm not sure because they actually haven't written the program yet. So definitely, if that was Deb, I would say go ahead and sign up for the newsletter and watch as kind of they build the requirements for it. The hard thing is that they just moved the money over and they haven't told us anything about what's going to be available in it yet. So, or any of the requirements.
Great. Thank you for answering that.
Okay. Was that the only question?
Yes, right now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So anyway, so then moving on, how are we going to help ourselves basically get back to successful in 2021? So I guess a little bit of bad news I want to start with is kind of some of the road bumps that we could actually run into in 2021. And my philosophy is always to be prepared and know what's coming up, and then we can deal with it when we get there. So some things I want to remind you guys about. I've had a lot of clients who've been really surprised by a lot of these things. So I wanted to talk about some of the things that are going to be happening when we file our 2020 taxes in 2021. The first thing is our PPP forgiveness. So everyone that took a PPP loan and you're planning on filing for forgiveness, or you are filing for forgiveness, they were really great in saying that the forgiveness of the loan was not going to create income for us, so we wouldn't have cancellation of debt income. However, they forgot to put in the stipulation in the bill that the expenses would be deductible also. So the IRS grabbed onto this and they basically put out information saying that the expenses that you use to forgive your PPP loan cannot be deducted on your tax return if you either have filed for forgiveness or you're planning on filing for forgiveness. So basically what that means is that you basically, if you're applying for 100% forgiveness, we're going to take 100% of your loan and you're going to add it to your net income, and that's going to be where you start for taxable income. So say you had net income of $10,000, you had $100,000 PPP loan that you're getting forgiven, you would now start with net income of $110,000 when you're talking about preparing your tax returns. So for some people it's not a problem. Their PPP loans weren't that big. Some people, it was a lot of money and they were really expecting those expenses there. And so it really throws a wrench into their tax planning and what their tax bills might look like next year. So it's definitely something to start talking to your CPAs and tax preparers about now. What's your tax bill going to look like with the PPP? So that's one issue. So the second thing I have on here is actually good news. So if we end up having a loss on our tax return this year, we do have the opportunity with the first CARES Act. They brought back the net operating loss carryback. So that's when you have a loss on your tax return, and then you can actually take that loss and apply it back to previous years that had income, reduce that income, and then you get that refund back. So if you're looking at taking a loss this year, that is a great way basically to get money back in your pocket by reducing those years and bringing back that taxes that you've actually paid in the prior years. One thing I totally forgot about PPP forgiveness. There is legislation that they are trying to go ahead and make those expenses deductible this year. It's something they're throwing around in the current package that they're working on. So for most people, we're recommending as CPAs, not as business consultants, but to hold on filing your tax return until they pass that bill to see if we actually get the deduction, because that's actually going to make a big difference in everyone's taxes. So it's out there. We won't know until the bill is passed, signed, and printed and all that kind of stuff if it actually makes it in there. But I know us in the tax preparation community are really hoping that that's going to happen. So back onto, so the last thing that I have on here is good news too, if you can get it, is some of the credits available this year, both federal and California, both have hiring credits that they did for this year. So if you happen to actually have hired additional people, you might be eligible for these hiring credits. They're actually pretty substantial if you qualify for them. I know the federal hiring credit, you have to have not received a PPP loan. So if you were one of those people that didn't receive a PPP loan, I would definitely start checking into the hiring credits. For the state of California, they don't have that provision for the PPP loan. However, you do have to go online to the state of California and register for that benefit ahead of time. So you would have to register, I'm not sure if it's before the end of the year, but definitely before you file your tax return, and actually reserve a portion of that credit before it runs out. So if you think that you might be eligible for that you took on new hires this year, definitely talk to your tax advisors about looking into the requirements for that, and if that's something you can take advantage of. I think both the federal and the state, it's something like $1,000 credit per employee. So that could really add up if you added quite a few new employees. So those are some good and bad news, but the big thing is get prepared for taxes ahead of time. Know where you're going to be standing, because it's going to make a big difference when we get into 2021 around April, March and April, and we might have tax bills that we didn't expect or something like that. So we want to be prepared for it. The other thing that I wanted to just remind you guys about is a lot of the loan deferrals are going to be ending in 2021. So you know that our idle loans, if we got those, and if we still have PPP balances due, those payments are all going to start kicking in 2021. So we need to be prepared for those extra expenses of paying, those loan payments in 2021. So the other things that are going to kick back on is if you had temporary deferrals on another type of SBA loan, on vehicle or equipment loans, any of those kinds of things, those are going to start back in 2021. So we need to be prepared that we're going to have that extra outlay of money coming into 2021. Lastly, the rent deferrals. This is something I see with a lot of clients where possibly they haven't paid rent for 6 to 9 months in the current place where they are. They may have been shut down the majority of the time. They may have been open, close. It depends exactly where we are in the city and what industry we're in. That's definitely something we're going to have to start planning on. If we haven't paid 6 months rent, there is a landlord out there that's probably going to be asking for it, and it's probably not going to get just wiped away. So it's something that we need to start talking to our property management companies, our landlords. How are we going to navigate that? What are we going to do about payback? I don't think anyone could handle basically start paying double rent for 6 months. I mean, that's just outrageous. So there's a lot of things kind of coming due from the relief that we got in 2020 that we're going to have to deal with in 2021. So how do we deal with this all? How do we remember it all? How do we know when everything's going to kick in? So my answer basically is, how do we navigate all of this? Basically, we build a business plan. And I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, that's, for new companies only, and we don't do that. But I want to challenge you guys to think that business plans are something that every business should do every year. Now, obviously, they're going to look a lot different when we're existing businesses than when we are a startup or trying to get, financing or investment capital, something like that. So we definitely don't have to use, the 27-page business plan now that we're in business, when we're using it more of an internal document to keep us going. But I want to challenge you guys that using a business plan is a good idea, and not just because I'm from the SBDC and we love to do business plans and that's the main part of what we do. But I actually went and did some research, and it's actually been scientifically proven that planning improves business performance. So companies tend to grow 30% faster with a plan. So that's a lot of growth. They also found that 71% of the fastest growing companies have business plans that they use regularly. And the last thing is that having a plan reduces the likelihood of failing. And that is definitely something we want to be up in the 30% growth and not in the failing part. So I started thinking about how can I make it easy on you and entice all these existing business owners basically to do a business plan. So I went through and I actually found a simple one-page plan. This is from B Plans. They actually have a great website. They have a ton of resources on there. It's actually where I found the scientific research. You'll see on the bottom, I noted it on the other page, but they have a ton of free resources on here about how to do it. Basically, what we want to do is we want to use this as our way of setting goals and remembering the why of what we do for business so that we can meet those goals. And the other thing we want to do is we actually want to track our progress through it and make sure that it's a flexible document that can be changed. So no business plan is set in stone. And I think after 2020, everyone knows that if we're not pivoting and jumping left and right, we're not gonna survive, right? So just quickly, for those of you who aren't really versed in business plans, I'll go over it real quick. So the identity part is kind of who we are. It's your mission statement, your vision statement, something like that. You can see in this example, it's just, we offer high quality biking gear for families and regular people, not just gearheads. So kind of a quick statement like that. I like to think of these one-page business plans as something that either sits on your desk, is up on the bulletin board, behind your computer monitor. I know one company we work with, it was on a whiteboard in like the kind of the general room, or like the big room. So every time you walk by it, you were seeing our sales goals, you were seeing our vision. So it was constantly at top of mind what we are doing. So basically, coming down the business plan, we want to talk about the problem that's worth solving. What are we doing to solve a problem for our customers, and also what our solution is? So when we talk about it, it's mostly what we do best, our value proposition. So we want to talk about that and keep that top of mind for us. We're going to quickly talk about our target markets. So these are the customers that we really want to hit over, the next year. And our competition, who are we looking at? It doesn't have to be a whole industry like this. Sometimes we may want to actually use, individual businesses. So if we're a restaurant, maybe we're chasing after a competitor on the other side of town, something like that. However you want to do it. And then the next section is our sales channels. So basically, how are we getting our word out? What are we doing? All of that good stuff. And then our marketing activities is kind of what are we using to get out there? So when we think about that, being specific about who we're selling to and how we're going to get that word out there. The next area, this one can be actually, you could have a little bit more detail in here, but these are our key income and expenses that we want to watch. So we want to watch revenue in our biggest channels there, and then our expenses are the ones we want to pay closest attention to, maybe overtime on this one, inventory controls, making sure that parts prices aren't changing too rapidly, and of course our marketing budget. The next section is milestones. And this could be sales increases, it could be efficiency processes, it could be new database programs, anything that you're doing either to create efficiencies, increase sales, decrease expenses, grow a customer base or a newsletter base, something like that. You don't have to have 5, maybe 3 sounds good to me. But make them something that you're going out to reach, and then make sure that you have a way to actually track their efficiency. So if it's a count of number of customers, make sure that you're tracking that number. If it's increase in sales, make sure that you're watching sales month over month, those kinds of things, because this is a usable document that we're actually going to go back and track our results again. The last section, I don't know whether you actually really need it, being a existing business if you're using this internally, but it talks about your team and your key roles in it, and then partners and resources. So it could be your biggest suppliers, that kind of stuff, people you're partnering with for marketing, any of those kinds of things. So I challenge you to go ahead and make a plan for next year. And so, me being the financial expert, of course, I'm going to tell you, don't forget the financial projections, because it's so important and there's so much that we can learn from numbers. And if you doubt me, then come and see me and we'll have a discussion about how the numbers are going to help you. So what I did for you here is I just wanted to put together a super simple cash flow projection, something that you could take this template back with you and put it together and use it in Excel if you do nothing else. Cash flow is so critical going into 2021, as I'm sure you guys figured out in 2020. So we really want to watch that. And so you can do this really easy by starting with your historical numbers for budgeting purposes. So we can pull a December profit and loss or income statement account, put it in here. Obviously, I made this nice and short so it would still be big enough that you could see it on the slide. But when I say revenue in, you would put all of your revenue categories in there, and then expenses out. That portion would basically cover your entire profit and loss. So basically what this does is on the first line A, and I showed you the calculations on the left-hand side just because you couldn't see what I had done in Excel. So we start with basically cash balance, what's in our bank at 12/31, and that's what we're going to start January with. That's how much cash we have. Then we're going to add how much revenue we got in for the month. We're going to minus out how much expenses we're projecting to pay. And then we get to net income. And you guys know that's one of the key numbers we always want to watch. Did we make money this month? So it stops right there. But then for cash flow, we actually kind of have to go a step further, because there are things that we have to pay that don't show up on our profit and loss. So I put a nice little subtotal there of what we have left in cash. And then I go down to start asking about loan payments. So these are things that we don't see those loan payments going through our profit and loss, but they're definitely taking our cash. And as those deferrals come off and all those types of things, we're going to have loan payments in there that we have to service with that cash left over from each month. So I put it in there. Some of the other ideas you can also put in this area is maybe if you're moving money over to build a savings reserve or some kind of fund to, purchase a new piece of equipment, something like that. You want to add it in here that you want to have the cash to move to those savings accounts or, deposit accounts, whatever you want to do there. And then at the end of the month, you see how much cash you have left. this company actually did good. They have more at the end than they did in the beginning. That's a really good month after we serviced our debt, put away savings, everything else. And how this spreadsheet works, you'll see they're in yellow, is that ending cash is going to flip back up to the front or to the beginning of February, and we're going to start the whole process over again when we project this out. So I think this is a fairly easy exercise to do. This is definitely something I do with clients all the time when we start talking about, are we expecting to have money? Are we going to have it? What's going to happen? And how would decisions that we make over the year, how is that going to affect our cash? And so having these projections is important. Sometimes we have 2 or 3 runs on them, like decision A, B, and C. Where do we want to be? So it's definitely a working document. You could also use this to track your actual results. So you could put in another column and see what you actually did for the month and what those variances are. And variances are just differences between what we projected and what actually happened. Sometimes they're not necessarily bad or necessarily good. They're just a difference. But finding out the why in that difference is really what's important there. So I challenge you also to do some projections and some budgeting and use it as a document through the year with your actual results, and really track where you're going to see if you're hitting those goals that you put in your plan. And you'll notice a big difference in your business when you really start focusing in on those numbers and where we're going and how we're getting there. So with that said, I guess my last thing to say is the last important thing actually is to have up-to-date books that you're working on, up-to-date financial statements, so you can run reports and review information to make decisions. So you have all of that financial information there. That's just, I guess, my little PSA. Being a CPA, I will tell you that. So finally, I wanted to give you some final thoughts on what we're doing here. So my best advice to you guys is stay informed over the next year. So sign up for the newsletters, alerts from local, state, and federal. I think you guys probably have actually already done that, considering that you're here. You're getting all of your newest information from Temecula Chamber of Commerce here. But just like the state websites, SBA is a great resource on the federal side to tell you what new programs are coming up. My second piece of advice is to plan. Planning is not just for January. We're also looking at it all the time and continually changing it so we can meet our goals. So it's a really important part of running our businesses when we get into that existing and really looking towards moving ourselves through to success and not just surviving. The third thing is, please coordinate and communicate with your network of experts. That's what they're actually there for. Your attorneys, your CPA, tax advisors, financial planners, consultants, looking to, Chamber of Commerce, SBDC, wherever you might find them, your paid business consultants, whatever they may be, you need those people circling around you to really make you successful. And they're there to answer all of the questions that you have and to help you with the things that we're not experts on. We're all experts in something. We're probably not experts in everything. And that's why we keep them around. So I would definitely pull them in and use them. So with that, I actually left a little bit of time if there were any additional questions from anyone about any of that stuff, or pick my brain if you'd like to.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Wendy. I just can't, this is just so helpful. Just sitting here listening to all your information was very eye-opening for me. I think sometimes maybe it's stuff people don't want to think about or have to plan about or know, but just, knowledge is power. And I think you just shared so much great information for our participants. We had a comment from Deb, of course. She said, as a new business owner, this has been great information. Thank you for your time. So, I can just only imagine our participants that were on today, how much better they probably, feel about certain things. If anybody has any other questions, guys, please, we have, Wendy's time right now. Please feel free, ask them. This is fantastic. Wendy and her whole team are so very, very, very busy. So having her at our disposal this very moment is priceless. So please get those questions in. But also know the information, as she mentioned, will go out to you guys in a follow-up email today. So you will be able to reach out to Wendy or any of her counterparts. If you have questions, guys, please throw them in our Q&A or in our chat room, and we'll ask Wendy. I'll ask one quick question, because I know we have many levels of business owners. So going back to, of course, the relief grant, is that something you foresee being available for, a small business owner being one person up to, someone that has 10, 12, 25 employees? Is that kind of a small business, like someone who's just a sole proprietor? Would they be able to apply for that, do you think?
I would think so. I think they are trying to go towards the small businesses. I mean, at this point, it's just a guess, because they haven't written any of the requirements for it yet. But I would hope that they would do that. And usually they've been, just like the California Rebuilding Act, they've been setting the limit usually at about somewhere between 25 to 50 employees, depending on how small a business they want to target. So a lot of us fall into those categories.
Yes, I know, many of our members, they're anywhere from, themselves, it's just them and their business, up to, 20 people, 50 people, all different levels. But, good information for me to have to share with our members as well.
I wish there was more out about it. I wish they did a lot earlier. So I'm really hoping they get it out sooner than later, because I know there's a lot of people that could really use a grant right now.
Oh, goodness, absolutely. And it's, it's so encouraging to know that it is a grant and not a loan, because I think, the loans can be, a bit overwhelming for businesses, but some grant help will be so fantastic for our community. And, I might ask Wendy, when those details come out, we might have you back to do another webinar just on that. I think that would be helpful to everybody. Well, I think sometimes people have questions after. So again, guys, we're going to invite you to ask those. We have Wendy's email. I will get that information out to you. I do want to mention, we have a couple more webinars coming up. Tomorrow is our third series, and it is all things, it's ABC. We have a advocate from the liquor license local business, and he's going to do all things liquor license, which I think is going to be very helpful for a lot of you to know what's going on right now. And then next week, we have a follow-up to our first webinar that Robert Rosenstein and his associate did. So we're working on the details on that. So please look out for that information. You guys can hopefully attend that next Tuesday, I believe. But again, Wendy and her team, SBDC, you guys, they have so many great webinars. They're all on our website. If you go to our website under events, you can find everything they're doing, numerous weekly webinars that are really helpful for all of you. So please check that out. And, I think with that, guys, Wendy, again, thank you. We're going to close it up and let you go. And I'll send out a follow-up email later to everybody.
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me today. I really had fun.
Thank you, Wendy, again for your time, and happy holidays.
Thanks, you too.
Great. Take care, everyone, guys. Thank you.